Ladies and gentlemen, again, if everyone could please be seated, we'll begin this very special session imminently. Again, do please take your seats. Welcome, everyone, and a very warm welcome to our esteemed First Lady of the Republic of Turkey, Emine Erdoğan. And thank you for being the architect of this very special session that I'm very honored to be hosting today. My name is Andrea Sankey. I'm the host of the Newsmakers on TRT World. And as I said, it really is a pleasure to be hosting this session of the Antalya Diplomacy Forum on women, peace, and security. I think hearing the voices that we're about to hear today is more timely than ever, given the ongoing and escalating really conflicts around the world right now, coupled of course with the seems like countless humanitarian crises that the globe is facing. It really shows how much we need, more than ever, the participation of women to bring peace through dialogue and reconciliation. Now, before we begin with our presentations, let's watch a brief video that actually highlights the very pivotal role of women in promoting peace and security worldwide.
Women are the pillar of society. Throughout human history, successful civilizations have had a common trait, and that is a higher participation rate and strong contribution from empowered women. But gender equity and the safeguarding and rights of women have been overlooked during periods of armed conflict, peace building, and post-conflict reconstruction. In October 2000, the UN Security Council took a major step by unanimously adopting Resolution 1325 on women, peace and security. There have been many advancements in the more than 2 decades since this resolution was passed, but there is still a long way to go. According to UN data, more than 600 million women and children lived in conflict-affected countries in 2022. This signifies a 50% increase over a 5-year period. Yet, the international community is still behind on formulating and implementing policies to protect women from the disproportionate impact they suffer during armed conflict and their underrepresentation in peacebuilding. Today, in many war zones and post-conflict geographies, women are often subject to acts of violence, sexual abuse, repressive behavior, and oppressive laws. We, as the international community, can only achieve a lasting peace if we move forward without leaving anyone behind. We can only make a fairer world possible with inclusive participation in the conflict prevention, resolution, and peace-building processes.
Haykırıyorum.
Dünya
5'ten büyüktür.
The world is bigger than 5. Regardless of race or religion, the pain, suffering and fear women and children endure during conflict is equal. The value of one teardrop is not greater or less than another. Let today usher in a new period, where we as humanity stand together against war. Let's work together in a new era of peace and security to ensure equality, justice and protection for man's eternal partner, woman.
Her birimizin ayrı ayrı güçlü, bir araya gelince ise çok daha güçlü bir sesimiz var.
Very moving. And with that today, through this session, we would like to amplify the voices of women. We'd like to recognize their contributions and champion their empowerment as agents of positive change. And I couldn't have asked, really, for a better group of women today to help us do that. So I'm going to keep my introduction as short as possible because I want to give as much time as possible to these amazing speakers today. And let me begin by introducing our first speaker now. Her unwavering commitment to peace and human rights has served as a beacon of hope for countless individuals around the world, especially in her home country of Yemen. Please, ladies and gentlemen, welcome Nobel Prize laureate Tawakkol Karman, the founder of the Tawakkol Karman Foundation.
Assalamu alaikum. Peace be upon all of you. First, I am so honored to be here in my country, in my second country, Turkey, and in this forum, Antalya Diplomacy Forum, and to discuss with you about to discuss an important topic of women, peace, and security. As we all know, women throughout history have borne the brunt of the devastating effects of war and conflict. Women are among the most affected and the most vulnerable category to various violations in regions experiencing wars and armed conflicts. Yet, they have also shown unparalleled resilience, courage, and leadership in the face of adversity. When conflict erupts, it is often women who suffer the most. They endure unimaginable hardship, displacement, loss of loved ones, sexual violence, and the collapse of essential services. Women become the primary caregivers, struggling to protect their families amidst the chaos of war. They are also disproportionately affected by poverty, lack of access to health care and education. But let us not forget, amidst the hardship, the remarkable strength of women. Despite being labeled as victims, they are also the unsung heroes of peace. Women in communities around the world have emerged as powerful agents of change, peace builders. Their voices, their experiences, and their perspectives are indispensable in crafting sustainable solutions to conflicts. Women must be represented in decision-making process at all levels. Women participation in public life is not just a matter of equality, it is a matter of necessity. Women can bring unique insight and priorities that are essential for preventing conflicts before they erupt and for building inclusive and sustainable peace. As we strive for peace, as we call for peace and security, we must not forget what is the real meaning of peace. Peace doesn't only mean the absence of wars. It also means the absence of oppression and injustice. So if we want to talk about women, peace, and security, if we want to support women, peace, and security, we should also support women's struggle for freedom, justice, democracy, and rule of law. We should support women's battle for freedom. We should support those women who are dying in their lands for their dignity, for their right of life, and as I said, for their freedom and dignity, which is the freedom and dignity of the society. So, as I said, for peace is not only merely the absence of war. It is also the absence of oppression and injustice. It is about creating a world where every individual, regardless gender, race, or creed, can live with dignity and security. The truth here is that despotism poses a great risk and a great threat to the global peace and security. So when women fight despotism and dictatorism and authoritarian regimes, we should support those women. And that means we support peace and security. Moreover, we must recognize that education, economic empowerment, and the fight against poverty are not only moral imperative, but also strategic priorities for achieving peace and security. Empowering women economically and socially is key to unlocking the full potential of communities and fostering resilience against conflict. Dear sisters and brothers, currently, the world is facing a concerning rise of fascism, of hatred, of racism, of many destructive wars and conflicts. We should stand together to face all these kind of deterioration on our humanity, on our principles, on our values. And let's talk about what is happening now as an example to this deterioration of the humanity. A distressing example of this can be seen in the ongoing genocide war by the Israeli occupation against Palestinians in Gaza. The machinery of killing and extermination persists, claiming the lives of civilians in Gaza, demolishing homes, attacking hospitals, houses, universities, and ambulances, and displacing millions of residents. This genocide broadcast for the world to see. This genocide demands our collective actions. We must all confront it and take every possible measure to halt the massacre and protect the 2 million people live in Gaza. Those people who subjected to death, siege, starvation, and displacement by the Israeli occupation and its supporters in the US administration and other Western allies. It is a genocide. This genocide aiming to eradicate the Palestinian people from their land through bombing, siege, and depriving them of basic necessities like food, medicine, and fuel. The resulting tragedies are indescribable, indescribable. And what we hear, and what we see is just a fraction of reality. The horrors that Palestinians face daily, every day in Gaza and in West Bank are unimaginable. As I said, they face daily murder, invasion, arrests, and attacks also by the settlers, armed by the Israeli occupation authorities. Now, there is many reasons of this, but the most important reason is the failure and inability of the international community to activate its collective mechanism to halt the extermination war in Gaza. And this has contributed to the ongoing humanitarian crisis, and that women in Gaza, women in Palestine is the most vulnerable one, is the most one who've been affected by this ugly war, of course, with children. Powerful countries like United States and United Kingdom and Britain shield and support this genocide, preventing the United Nations from taking action to stop this daily killing, this daily siege, this daily starvation, and this daily displacement. And this is resulting to the United Nations Security Council being paralyzed. It's always being paralyzed, but it's now when we talk about Gaza, the genocide that people in Gaza face, the Security Council is paralyzed for over 4 months. The United Nations has been unable to carry out its tasks in carrying its task to protect humanity, to protect human lives, to protect international peace and security, to protect and to defend in its women, peace, and security agenda in Gaza, in Palestine, and before that in Syria, and before that in Myanmar, the genocide that Rohingya people faced it. Millions of Rohingya people faced the same genocide that now Palestinian people faced. So the United Nations couldn't do its work, its tasks. And this is reason for many, many important items, but the most important thing is because the vote power of the 5 prominent countries. So the United Nations has been unable to carry out its tasks in caring for and protect the international peace and security. It's imperative to strengthen the role of the United Nations in protecting global peace and security, reforming the Security Council, including removing the veto power. This is essential to ensure the global peace and security. While we call for equality between women and men, we also call for equality between nations. Why only 5 countries have the veto rights, the veto powers, And they use these veto powers just for their interests. They use these veto powers just for the interest of their allies. They didn't use the veto power to do their work in Security Council. The United Nations itself and all its agencies and the Security Council itself established for protecting human rights, not for protecting the interests of the superpower countries. So if we want to achieve the agenda, the women, peace, security agenda, the first thing that we should is to protect human rights, is to protect every human being in this planet from any kind of atrocities. And this will not happen if the Security Council itself is in the prison of the veto powers of those 5 countries. So we need a real reforms for this important international mechanism. The global order has to change now for the sake of the humanity. People in Gaza die every day in front of all the TV, all the media, and all the world with them, by the way. Except 1 or 2 countries has the veto powers. And this mechanism should stop now. And who will stop that? Is the people. Is the countries like South Africa. Thanks, thank you, very big greeting to South Africa, who give us big hope of the humanity, who give us big hope of authority who stand against injustice and oppression and occupation. I know that they are paying a lot for their position when they file and accuse Israel on committing genocide in the International Justice Court. So thank you so much, South Africa. You give us, all the people around the world, a very big hope and a very big belief that justice and freedom will prevail in the end. And also, if we want to achieve women, peace, and security agenda, it will not be achieved if the war criminals escaped from punishment. The war criminals should be trialed in the International Criminal Court. There is no immunity for them. There is no peace without justice. Benjamin Netanyahu has to face justice. Bashar al-Assad also has to face justice. Every war criminal should face justice. And this is one of the shortages in the international mechanism for justice, that even the International Criminal Court couldn't make their rule on following criminals without Security Council or without the ratification of the country. And this is one of the reforms that we should do if we really want to achieve peace and security. Do you know who is, as I said before, do you know who posed the greatest risk to the peace and security? Is the dictators. is the countries, is the terrorism of countries who occupied nations, who steal the wealth of nations. So women, it is not, when we talk about women, peace and security, it is not just some seats in parliament or some seats in government, which is very important. Very important. Women, peace and security means women should be in leadership positions, because she can make a very good decisions to prevent the war before it erupts. But this is not only the things that means women, peace. No. Women, peace, and security means fighting poverty. That is now everywhere. That means stopping war and conflict, stopping occupation, and again, stopping authoritarian regime, dictatorship. Be with women, be with peace, and be with security. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Tawakkol Karman. What an honor to hear you speak. Our next speaker is a woman whose leadership in advancing gender equality and sustainable development is truly commendable. Please welcome Ivana Zivkovic. She is the Assistant Administrator and Director of the Regional Bureau for Europe and the Commonwealth of Independent States at the United Nations Development Program.
Thank you very much. First Lady, Your Excellency Erdogan, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, I'm honored to participate in this high-level session on women, peace and security at the 2024 Antalya Diplomacy Forum. The Women, Peace and Security agenda is underpinned by United Nations Security Council Resolution 1325, brought about by lessons learned on the criticality of women and girls' inclusion and leadership in building and sustaining peace. Across the board, progress in full and equal participation of women is being made, but much more needs to be done. Ensuring that decision-making is representative and inclusive and is central to the Women, Peace and Security agenda. However, globally and in our region, women are underrepresented in legislative and executive bodies, as well as in local councils. Only 3 out of 19 countries in this region have more than 30% of women ministers, and only 8 of these countries have more than 30% women in central parliaments, signaling a strong need for progress to be made. This election year globally provides a timely opportunity. In Central Asia, UNDP has supported the role of women in decision and policy making to ensure the equality of these processes and their outcomes. Working with the United Nations Regional Center for Preventive Diplomacy for Central Asia, we support the Central Asia Women's Leaders Caucus to enhance the regional impact of women in support of peace and stability through active political participation. Women remain underrepresented in peace negotiations and in the military, police, and diplomatic sectors. In the Western Balkans, UNDP's CSAC program is pioneering work to change this trend. It has supported an increase in the share of women among uniformed personnel and their capacities to ensure safety and security for all. In Europe and Central Asia, we're working to affect substantive change. Our work includes empowering women to become agents of change through the information sharing and economic empowerment, supporting displaced and refugee women and girls is at the center of our work in Gaza, Ukraine, as well as in other crisis settings. In Gaza, women, peace, and security is a basic concept for our whole recovery program. In Ukraine, UNDP worked with the government to scale its digitalization program and ensured that its DIA platform has enhanced service provision to millions of people, including many refugees and displaced persons who are predominantly women and children, ensuring their equal access to services. Here in Turkey, we apply the principles of participation and equality that are core to the Women, Peace and Security agenda across all our programming, including in the response to the horrific earthquakes that devastated 11 southern provinces just over a year ago. For example, we helped to establish multiple care centers that provide counseling and services to vulnerable women and children. We constructed a new headquarters for the Hatay Bar Association to provide free legal aid to those in need. And we saw to it that 42% of our 4,600 earthquake recovery grants we provided to small businesses that are led by women entrepreneurs. Globally, our efforts extend to supporting communities' resilience through empowering youth as actors of positive change. By increasing their opportunities for self-fulfillment and equipping them, particularly girls and young women, with skills and opportunities to plan their career paths, we foster socioeconomic resilience, social cohesion, and contribute to long-term peace and stability. And last but not least, in the emerging frontier of the digital environment, we must innovate to progress the Women, Peace and Security agenda. The significant digital divide between men and women further constrains effective women's empowerment across many countries. First Lady, Your Excellency Erdogan, Excellencies, dear colleagues, neither peace nor development are sustainable if we don't ensure that they're equitable. If half of our societies are being left behind in the realization of their dreams, their rights, their contributions, we cannot attain the sustainable development goals or deliver on our commitments on women, peace, and security. To do so, we must act in a coordinated manner, deliver on our commitments, and ensure that women and girls have their right to equality realized. UNDP has developed a strong corporate commitment to achieving progress in this area. We are implementing our 10-point action agenda for advancing gender equality in crisis settings to ensure transformational change in crisis contexts. I look forward to hearing more throughout this session on how we, as a collective, can further ensure sustainable peace and development for all those we serve by delivering on our commitments to women, peace, and security. I thank you.
Ivana Zivkovic, thank you so much. Let me introduce now the special envoy of the chairperson of the African Union Commission on Women, Peace, and Security, Ms. Bineta Diop. Her efforts to amplify the voices of women, specifically in conflict zones, have been instrumental in advancing the cause of peace and security across the continent. Thank you so much.
Good morning, everybody. And Madam First Lady, thank you so much for putting the agenda of women, peace, and security always in the Antalya Forum and the Africa agenda as a priority. So we need to recognize that that's not the first time we are talking about it, thanks to your leadership. So I stand to the existing protocol, but just say, follow what the Nobel Peace Prize has said, that our world is facing unprecedented challenges, ongoing wars, act of terrorism. And what is most sad is the backsliding in the rules-based international order. You said it rightly. To address these challenges, an effective diplomacy where women's voice are heard and respected has never been more critical. Let me also say it here that we need to recognize the role that have played by women of South Africa, one of the who brought Israel to the ICC, and the women who have led this is in this room, Madam Nalandi Pandor, the Minister of Foreign Affairs of South Africa. Thank you, Madam, for doing this. Can we recognize you, Madam? Thank you, thank you. Madam Minister of Foreign Affairs of South Africa. Yes, thank you. Yeah. So we need to address the challenge, the pressing challenges of our era. And it's also important to reflect on women's role in peace process. And we have seen that when women lead, we make impact and we make a difference. We are just coming in 1 year, the 25th anniversary of the Resolution 1325. What needs to be done? We have put a lot of policy and programs in many levels. In my continent, Africa, we have achieved a lot. Let me just give you one example. 61% of our member states of African countries have adopted national action plan. That's a great milestone. But what we need is implementation, accountability, and we need impact. It's not just adopting plan, but on top of it, how do we make sure that we protect women, how we make sure that they are part and parcel of the decision-making process as well, and how do we make sure that we prevent against violence against women in all sorts of life. So really implementation is very key. So in the African Union, we have put what we call the Continental Result Framework. We wanted to measure progress, collecting data through that, the tool that we have put in place, and creating mechanism like women mediators. We need to make sure that women lead in conflict resolution, not to be the victims, because as you say, they are resilient and they could contribute. How do we make effectively women contribution efficient, but also part of the negotiation? So we need to recognize also that we put a lot of emphasis that those who hold the guns. Qualification of who gets a seat at the peace negotiation table is in favor of those responsible for creating conflict, those holding the guns, which structurally exclude those working to prevent and resolve conflict, namely the women who are in the society, the backbone of our society. So it's just unfortunate, but surprisingly, that this structural exclusion of women perpetuates the conflict trap and recurrent civil wars as observed in many parts of the globe. If you exclude women, you exclude more of the half of the population in solving the problems. So then we must act differently. There's a time to do it. We must invest in new ways and approach to address this vicious cycle of women exclusion in order to secure transformative change. We talk about the Security Council, how do we transform it? But let's start by putting women to be around the table and make sure that they can address some of the challenges that we see in Palestine, but other parts of the world. and in my own continent. So to move forward, we need to propose a number of actions. Let's look at what we can do collectively. First, I think we need to saturate every level of leadership in all sectors with women. In the diplomacy, we need to put more women there. Women must occupy leadership positions in all sectors, in politics, in governance, in economy. So we don't look for them, because what we tend to see is, where are the women? We don't ask where are the men, they are sitting there. How do we make sure that in all sectors, women take leadership? And we need to work on that. When we see our ministers of foreign affairs, our First Lady of Swatini, and others, women are there capable, and we need to put them in all spheres of life. So investing in initiatives that promote women leadership through mentoring, coaching young women, and we have put in Africa what we call the Africa Women Leaders Network, which is representative across Africa, and we need to promote that in all continents. Secondly, I strongly believe we need to redesign the peace tables. Silencing the guns, stopping the bombs, and agreeing to end the war so that a genuine culture of peace can take root will always be difficult, but we cannot continue leaving it in the hands of the minority who believe in violence, who believe in guns, and who think that this is the pathway to power. Let's stop that. Don't give it the space for those who have the guns. Give the space, create it for those who can bring peace. And we need to change the mindset. We need a paradigm shift from a narrow notion of peace negotiation as a security and political process to acknowledging it as a societal process where the voice of women and the civil society and the young people are present. And I think my last comment will be, we must invest in women's movement. Those who are creative. Why are we only investing in those who hold the guns? Let's look at it differently. Invest all those that are at the backbone. We call them track 3. Why not? Reverse the track 3 to become the track 1. Let's invest on that, and we can prevent even if we do that. So lastly, let me just say, my last recommendation as I conclude is the need to link the women, peace and security work and financing to processes where decisions about power and resources allocation are taken. Financing is critical. Sometimes we go to a place, Turkey is doing the calling on peace mediation and dialogue, and we appreciate that. But can we also call for the women like here today to have dialogue in countries that are in conflict? So we work on women, peace and security must percolate into all sectors: foreign policy, diplomacy, social, economic and political, and also including the private sector. So my last call is to all of us in this room and those who are outside, that all actors, when we come next time to Antalya Forum, that what we are saying here, how much we are implementing it ourselves in our different sectors. Let's measure the progress, not just talk, but let's look at the action. Let's look at something that is working. If we reverse the table, let's invest on that and make sure that the next time we meet, we are talking about action, implementation, and impact to our population. I thank you very much for listening.
Bineta Diop, thank you so much. Now, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage a woman who has been a steadfast advocate for peace and social justice, the spouse of the President of Bulgaria, Desislava Radeva.
Your Excellency, Madam Erdogan, Your Excellencies, dear friends, ladies and gentlemen, please allow me to first express my gratitude towards the First Lady of the Republic of Turkey, Her Excellency Madam Erdogan, for her initiative and leadership in organizing this event. It is a privilege to speak in front of you today, especially since I highly appreciate the topic of our gathering, which is extremely important to my opinion. We witness times of increasing violence and conflicts worldwide, of significant human suffering. With the increasing number of conflicts, our concern about the worsening security and safety of women across the world also grows, because we all know that armed conflicts have disproportionate negative effect on women and girls. The international community's commitment to defend women during times of armed conflicts and wars is fundamental and set in international humanitarian law. The commitment to empowering women and to them having a more active role in the topic of peace and security is also very important. We know that promoting the effective involvement of women in the efforts to achieve peace is a UN priority, formulated with the unanimous adoption of UN Security Council Landmark Resolution 3025 on women, peace and security. My country, the Republic of Bulgaria, strictly adheres to its commitments under it. The National Action Plan for Women, Peace and Security 2020-2025, adopted in Bulgaria, clearly shows the Bulgarian commitment to the issues related to gender equality in all fields of the public, political, economic, and social life, including women's participation and leadership in efforts at national and international level for conflict prevention and resolution, building and strengthening international peace and security. Ladies and gentlemen, allow me to focus specifically on one aspect of the topic of our discussion that I believe shows the significance of providing an active and leading role for women on the topics of peace and security. I would like to speak about women as mothers, along with their active and equal participation in all other social and economic processes. The kind letter invitation that I received from Her Excellency Madame Erdogan impressed me with how well the role of women was noted as bearers and nurturers of society. Indeed, we women create life not only biologically, but also build the moral upbringing of our children. I believe this gives us an extremely substantial point of view on the topic of our discussion. Yes, women always suffer in wars and conflicts. And yes, wars and conflicts put women in an especially vulnerable position. Yet women set an example of courage and survival in wartime situations. As wives and mothers, women actually represent a factor of great importance in preserving all of society. History is full of examples of how in times of armed conflicts, women take on their shoulders the huge burden of providing not only subsistence for their children, but also their security and education. This is often related to tremendous sacrifice and deprivation. And still, women manage to deal with the huge difficulties and challenges, as well as to guarantee the survival and future of their children, their families and communities. I believe that this remarkable resilience of ours is fueled by the intransitive motherly instincts in our nature that have saved humanity in times of severe trials. At the same time, I believe that this resilience of women is the greatest proof of our potential to contribute for achieving a better, more peaceful and secure future for our children and for our society. It is especially important to promote the role and voice of women and mothers in the efforts to deter deadly conflicts. Nobody knows the value and fragility of life better than a mother that gives life. This is why mothers, who are usually closer to their children as they grow, have a decisive responsibility and possibility to raise the young generation in a way that rejects violence, contributing to a permanent positive change in the attitudes in society. Children growing up in an environment that denounces violence and shows youth the path to a fulfilled life as responsible, peaceful citizens would serve as the strongest foundation for achieving permanent peace. In this context, I share the opinion that it is necessary for the international community to put more efforts into attracting and motivating women as mothers for a greater presence in the processes of building, restoring, and keeping peace. Recognizing the importance of women as mothers and supporting their active inclusion in peace processes is of key importance to peace. In conclusion, I would like to once again express my gratitude to Madam Erdogan for holding and hosting this session. I wish all of us success in our shared mission as women and mothers to pave the way for a more secure and peaceful world in the future. And may we never forget the words of Margaret Thatcher. If you want something said, ask a man. If you want something done, ask a woman. Thank you.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome a woman whose dedication to empowering women and promoting peace has really left an indelible mark on her own country and beyond. Ladies and gentlemen, the First Lady of Serbia, Tamara Vucic.
Thank you very much. Distinguished Madame Erdogan, dear Emine, ladies and gentlemen, dear friends. At the outset, I would like to extend my true respect and admiration to Madame Erdogan for organizing this important gathering within the framework of the Third Diplomacy Antalya Diplomacy Forum. Today we are dealing with a particularly important topic, I would say: women, peace, security. These three nouns are in close and obvious correlation, and yet very often neglected, unfairly neglected. That's why I would like to thank again Madame Erdogan for gathering us here. Allow me to share with you a short Eastern tale of wisdom. A young man approached famous wise man, and after, as usual, he had bowed his head before him, he said that he had read many books, but still asked him to be his teacher. The old man then asked him to make some tea. Young man hasted to bring him the cup of tea, but the old man said that he didn't like that particular tea and that he wanted another one. The young man quickly returned with different tea, and the old man asked him to pour him one, offering him the same cup. The young man was confused and said that he couldn't because the cup had already been filled with the first tea. Then the old man said, Well, you see, you already have some knowledge and some judgment on something. In order to learn from me, first you have to be certain that the respective judgment does not meet your expectations, that you do not think of it as of the truth, and that it does not make you happy, and then to sit without prejudice and listen to what I have to say. Just like you have to first spill the tea you consider to be bad in order to fill the cup with new and better one. In other words, if we want to change the world or just the part of it, we cannot do that on old foundations based on old principles. The same way of thinking and the same approach under the same circumstances take to the same solutions, and we are not happy and satisfied with them. We must approach the problem with a new energy and try to see the challenges unburdened with the old approach. And what new spirit could enter the planning and decision-making spaces in the world that was created mostly on wars and battles for territories, for ores, natural wealths, for better position in political streams? Who could bring at least the breath of politics of peace and creative energy? The words of Mahatma Gandhi offer the answer. To call woman the weaker sex is a libel. It is man's injustice to woman. If by strength is meant brute strength, then indeed woman is less brute than man. If by strength is meant moral power, then woman is immeasurably man's superior. Has she not greater intuition? Is she not more self-sacrificing? Has she not greater powers of endurance? Has she not greater courage? Without her, man could not be. If non-violence is the law of our being, the future is with woman. Let's go back in history. While male part of the world was mostly dealing with conquering territories or natural and other wealth, woman was the one who strived to maintain the livelihood and stability with its power to give life and to cherish family values, trying to keep at least the island of stability in the world demolished by the blows of historical waves. There was no place for her at grumpy gatherings that planned riots, revolutions, wars, and conquests. Her voice of peace and stability was not heard in way too serious corridors and rooms where the fate of the world was tailored. Today, the change of paradigm of observing the world is required and necessary and inevitable. This was envisaged a long time ago by the great mind, Nikola Tesla. He said, "The female mind has demonstrated a capacity for all the mental acquirements and achievements of man, and as generations ensue, that capacity will be expanded. The average woman will be as well educated as the average man, and then better educated, for the dormant faculties of her brain will be stimulated to an activity that will be all the more intense and powerful because of centuries of repose. Women will ignore precedent and startle civilization with their progress." And as if time has come for cultural overturn, which must bring the chance to the mankind for a different way of observing the world. I dare say that the pillars of the living power are women by nature, as mothers and as rebuilders of the mankind, as gentle beings whose strength lies precisely in their tenderness, patience, wisdom, in caring for a child and for a parent. Don't get me wrong, please. Men, of course, take care of their descendants and legacy, but let us put the things differently. Mao Zedong shortly said, "Women hold up half of the sky." So at least we have, that much right and obligation to decision-making and to contributing to reaching peace and understanding, the meaning of balance and preservation of our big family, the mankind. By recognizing the pivotal role of women as agents of change and champions of stability and dialogue, we not only contribute to the objective of gender equality, but strengthen the foundations of lasting peace and prosperity for all. I believe that you noticed that the most beautiful words of respect and admiration were written and said by precisely men. The other day, I heard a wise man saying that we do make mistake when we say that behind every successful man stands a successful woman. Beside, he said, beside every successful man stands a successful woman. So unity. The solution, I would say, is in unity, because only with joint forces can we shape policies, mobilize resources, and define activities aimed at reaching sustainable development goals and full implementation of women, peace, security agenda. In order to conclude, I wish to quote our host, Madame Erdogan. She said in 2018, "I believe the leading role in rebuilding societies and exalting common values falls upon women. Therefore, it is of utmost importance for women to actively participate in decision-making mechanisms. I believe it is high time for great changes if we want to avoid great danger for human civilization and history, which, if we do not make wise approach, there will be no one to right." Teşekkür ederim. Thank you.
Thank you so much, First Lady Tamara Vucic. I now have the true honor of introducing our final and keynote speaker and the architect of this session today. Please welcome to the stage the First Lady of the Republic of Turkey, Her Excellency Emine Erdoğan, whose commitment to women's empowerment and social welfare has inspired positive change in communities around the world.
Sayın Bulgaristan Devlet Başkanı, kıymetli Eswatini Kraliçesi, saygıdeğer lider eşleri, uluslararası kuruluşların kıymetli temsilcileri, hanımefendiler, beyefendiler, hepinizi sevgi ve saygıyla selamlıyorum. Sizleri 3. Antalya Diplomasi Forumu kapsamında kadim tarihi, doğası ve kültürüyle gözde bir şehrimiz olan Antalya'da ağırlıyor olmaktan memnuniyet duyuyorum. Hepiniz hoş geldiniz, sefalar getirdiniz. Bu seneki ana temamız krizler döneminde diplomasiyi öne çıkarmak. Nitekim bugün dünya olarak hiçbir ülkenin tek başına bertaraf edemeyeceği boyutta krizlerle maalesef karşı karşıyayız. Bizi insanlık olarak bir arada tutan değerlerin ve kurumların temelleri yakın tarihte hiç bu kadar sarsılmamıştı. Bu buluşmayı huzurlu bir barış ortamında değil, ne yazık ki savaşın karanlık gölgesi altında gerçekleştiriyoruz. Savaşlar ve çatışmalar adeta adım adım ilerleyen bir yangın gibi dünyamızı kuşatmaya devam ediyor. Yanan bizim evimiz, yanan bizim ailemiz, yanan bizim ortak değerlerimiz. Kutuplaşma ve ırkçılığın arttığı, tahammülsüzlük ve tamahkarlığın nefreti körüklediği bir çağda barışı ve düzeni korumak gitgide daha da zorlaşıyor. Adil ve güçlü bir iradenin diplomasiyle çözebileceği ihtilaflar
hızla sıcak çatışmaya
Disputes
evriliyor.
that just a strong will can resolve through diplomacy are
Irak'tan,
rapidly evolving
Yemen'den,
into conflicts.
Sudan'dan,
From Syria,
Filistin'den
Iraq,
ve daha
Yemen,
birçok çatışma
and in
bölgesinden
many other
aynı
conflict
acı
zones,
feryatlar
the same
yükseliyor.
horrifying
Yaşayabilmek
cries
için evini
are
ardında
rising.
bırakan masum canlar,
Innocent
sığındıkları yerde
souls
zalimce
who have to leave their homes
katlediliyorlar.
behind in order to survive
Şiddetin her
are cruelly
türlüsüyle
slaughtered in the
örselenen
places
çocukların
where they
minik
seek
minik
refuge.
yüreklerinde tamiri mümkün olmayan yaralar açılıyor.
Irreparable wounds are being
Dünyanın
inflicted in the
tüm
tiny
vicdanlı
hearts of
insanları
children.
yekpare bir sesle hemen ateşkes, hemen barış diye haykırıyor.
The world is
Artık
calling for
öyle bir
peace
noktadayız
right
ki
now, right?
söylenebilecek
It's
tüm
about
sözleri
time to do
tükettik.
that. We are in such a situation that
Söylenebilecek son sözü
everything
6
is said so
yaşındaki
far.
Filistinli kız çocuğu
A
Hint
6-year-old
Recep çapraz ateş
Syrian girl
altındayken yaptığı
has
yardım çağrısında
asked
söyledi.
for help.
Lütfen,
Please,
lütfen beni kurtarın
help
demişti.
me, she said.
Ne onu, ne ailesini,
Neither her
ne canı pahasına ona yardıma
nor her
giden
family,
sağlık ekiplerini
nor
kurtarabildik.
the medics could
Soykırımın
have
bir
been
parçası olma ihtimali,
unfortunately
insanca var
saved.
olma onuruna fazla gelen Erin Bushnell söylenebilecek son
Whom
sözleri
the
haykırarak
possibility of being a
hayata
part
veda
of the
etti.
genocide was too much
Bu
for the
soykırıma
dignity of
ortak
human existence.
olmayacağım dedi.
Passed away shouting the last
Yapılan
words that
zulüm
could be said. I
vicdanına
will
ağır
not be
geldiği
a
için
partner in this
İsrail'in
genocide.
yıkım araçlarının altında can veren Rachel Corrie ile aynı yaşta
the same
ömrünün
age,
baharındaydı.
who perished under the Israel
Sözün
demolition
tükendiği
vehicles
bu noktada
because the cruelty was
barış
too much
umudunu
for
canlı
her
tutmak
conscience.
ve barışa yönelik
At this
gayretimizi arttırmak zorundayız.
We
Dünyanın
need to
adil, cesur ve
work
hakkaniyetli
together.
liderlere
And
hiç
we
olmadığı
have the
kadar
world needs to be
bugün
fair. We need to be
ihtiyacı var.
courageous. We need
Barışa
to
inanan
definitely
cesur
believe
insanlar güçlerini
in
birleştirdiğinde
peace. When we all
girilen
unite
şiddet
together,
sarmalını kıracağımıza
I'm sure
barış
that
ve
we are
huzurlu bir
going to
düzeni bu güç
break
birliği ile
the
elde
cycle
edeceğimize
of
inanıyorum.
violence.
Değerli başkan, kıymetli lider eşleri,
Dear wives of
değerli
leaders,
konuklar,
distinguished guests.
savaşta her kesim zarar görse de
Although all groups
bilhassa
are affected
kadınlar
by war,
orantısız
women in
bir
particular
biçimde
are
bundan
disproportionately
etkileniyorlar.
affected.
Savaşın derinden etkilediği
Women
kadınların
deeply affected
barış
by the
için
war have a
söyleyecek
lot to
çok sözü
say
var.
for peace.
Büyük bir incelikle inşa ettiği
Women
yuvası,
who
yanıp
have
küle dönen,
seen the
canından
home
parça
they built with
evladının
great
acısını
care
gören, kök
burn to
saldığı
ashes,
toprakları terk
who have
etmek zorunda
suffered the
kalan
pain
kadınlar,
of their children,
barışın
who have been
kıymetini
forced to leave the
herkesten
land
çok
where
daha
they
iyi
took
bilir.
root, now know the value
Bu
of peace
konuda
better than
24 yıl
anyone
önce
else.
küresel bir
In
irade
this
ortaya
regard,
konmuş,
24
Birleşmiş
years
Milletler
ago,
Güvenlik
a
Konseyi'nin
global will was put
1325
forward
sayılı kararı ile kadınların barış
the
süreçlerine katılımı
participation of
güvence
women in
altına
peace
alınmıştı.
processes was guaranteed by the
Ancak ne
United
yazık
Nations
ki
Security Council
çatışmanın
Resolution
birincil
2025.
mağduru toplumların inşasının ana
1325.
aktörü olan kadınların
However, unfortunately,
arabuluculuk
we
ve
see that women who
arabuluculuk
are
ve barış
primary
süreçlerine
victims of
etkin bir
conflict
şekilde
and the
dahil
main actors
edilmediğini
in the
hep
construction of
birlikte görüyoruz.
societies are not effectively
Oysa
included in
araştırmalar
mediation
kadınların
and
sürece
peace
dahil
processes.
olduğunda
However,
uzlaşma
research
olasılığının
shows that
yükseldiğini
when women are
ve
involved
barışın
in
daha uzun
the process
soluklu
of peace,
hale
the
geldiğini
likelihood of
bize gösteriyor.
reconciliation increases and peace becomes more
Kadınların farklı
durable.
gruplarla işbirliği yapma ve
Women's
birlikte
nature to
çalışmaya yatkın
cooperate and work
tabiatı
together with
ve
different groups
sosyal
and their
meselelere
sensitivity
olan
to social
duyarlılıkları
issues
barış
increase the
süreçlerindeki
chances of success in
şansını
peace
arttırıyor.
processes.
Unutmamalıyız ki
We must
kalıcı ve
remember
sürdürülebilir bir
that
barış,
lasting and sustainable
kimsenin
peace
geride
comes from a process
bırakılmadığı bir
in which no one
süreçten
is
doğar.
left behind.
Bilhassa toplumun
particular,
temel ve
a peace
dönüştürücü bir
process
parçası olan
that
kadınların
doesn't
dahil
include women
edilmediği bir barış
who are a
sürecinin
fundamental
başarı ile
and
sonuçlanması
transformative
beklenemez.
part of society cannot be
Bu nedenle
accepted,
diplomasiyi öne
cannot be
çıkarırken kadınların karar verici noktalarda olduğunda emin olmalıyız. Savaş yorgunu bir çağda kadın bakış açısıyla tesis edilecek barışın daha kapsayıcı, sürdürülebilir ve hakkaniyetli olacağına tüm kalbimle inanıyorum. Nitekim görüyoruz ki Filistin'de, Ukrayna'da, Suriye'de, Yemen'de barış hedefiyle öne çıkan hareketler kadınlardan güç almaktadır. Lider eşleri olarak bizlere de karar alıcı düzeyde bulunan tüm kadınlara bu anlamda büyük sorumluluklar düşüyor. Bu çerçevede Ukrayna Devlet Başkanı'nın eşi Olena Zelenska hanımefendi ile işbirliği halinde Ukrayna'da 1500'e yakın savaş mağduru çocuğu ve refakatçilerini ülkemizde misafir ediyoruz. Bu grup arasından bugün aramızda bulunan Kırım Tatarı çocuklarımız söyleyeceği şarkılarıyla sevginin ve umudun tek dil olduğunu bize yeniden hatırlatacaklar. Benzer bir şekilde yakın zamanda Gazze'den tedavileri için getirdiğimiz savaş mağduru çocukları ülkemizde misafir ediyoruz. İnanıyoruz ki insanlığın zulüm ile bükülen belini mazlumlar arasında ayrım gözetmeyerek doğrultabilir. Büyük bedeller ödenerek kazanılan uluslararası hukuk ve adalet sistemini ruhundan kopararak yazılı birkaç ifadeyi indirgemeye çalışanlara asla boyun eğmeyeceğiz. Birlikte insanca yaşamamızın teminatı olan bu kaidelerin suçu işleyen ülkeye ve mazlumun milliyetine göre eğip bükülmesine nasıl sessiz kalabiliriz?
How can we remain silent when these
Buradan
principles,
sormak
which are the
istiyorum.
guarantee of our human
25 kişi
coexistence, are bent and
öldürüldüğünde
twisted according to the
Paris'te kol kola
country
yürüyüş
that committed the
düzenleyen
crime
dünya
and the
liderleri
and the
bugün
nationality
ekseriyeti
of the
kadın ve
oppressed?
çocuk olan 30 bin insan vahşice katledilirken hangi gerekçe ile sessiz kalabiliyor?
How come we can be? I would like to ask now, on what grounds can world leaders who marched armed in Paris when 25 people were killed remain silent today when 30,000 people, mostly women and children, are brutally massacred?
Medeni ülkeler,
The civilized countries, which are supposed to save
çağrısı dahi
children, women and
yapamayacak
innocent people, are
bu
too
korkunç
cold
karanlığa teslim olmuş
in this
durumdalar.
terrible darkness to even call for a
İsrail'in
ceasefire.
sözde mağduriyetinin giderilmesi
How many
için
more lives
daha kaç
will be
can feda
sacrificed
edilecek
for
soruyorum.
Israel's so-called
25
victimization?
Avrupalı'nın hayatını kaybetmesinin vicdanlarda oluşturduğu
How many
öfke ve acıyı
thousands
uyandırmak için
of
kaç bin
Palestinians will have to die in
ölmesi
order to
gerekiyor?
awaken the anger
Tarih
and pain and the
sayfaları
conscience
bu
caused by the loss
utanç
of
verici soykırım
25
yaşanırken
European
karşısında
lives.
cesaretle duran barış neferlerini de yazacaktır.
Of course,
Güney Afrika Cumhuriyeti başta olmak üzere hak ve adaletin tecellisi için adım atan tüm ülkelere minnettarlığımı ifade etmek istiyorum.
And I would like to also thank gratefully the South African Republic
Bizler de geçtiğimiz Kasım ayında 20 lider eşi ve ülke temsilcisi ile Filistin için tek yürek zirvesi kapsamında aynı amaçla bir araya gelmiştik. Davetime icabet ederek gelen mazlumların haklı davası için güçlü bir duruş sergileyen kız kardeşlerime buradan bir kez daha şükranlarımı sunuyorum.
Again for being here
başta
my
Dışişleri
last
Bakanlığımız
words.
olmak üzere bu kıymetli organizasyonda emeğe geçen
I
herkesi
would like
kutluyor.
to thank
Oturumunuza
especially our Ministry of
katılımlarınız
Foreign
için
Affairs and thank you
hepinize
all once
bir
again
kez daha
for your
teşekkür
participation in our
ediyorum.
session.
Savaşların yerini kapsayıcı bir
I wish for a
barış
just
düzenine
world where
bıraktı.
wars
Her
are
şeyden
replaced by an
önemlisi
inclusive
çocukların
peace order,
ölüme terk
and
edilmediği
above all,
adil
where
bir
children
dünya
are not
diliyorum.
left to
Bir
die.
kez daha
Once again,
hepinizi sevgi
I
ve
greet you all
saygıyla
with love
selamlıyorum.
and respect.
Kalın sağlıcakla.
Peace be with you.
See, Her Excellency First Lady Emine Erdoğan, thank you as always for such a moving presentation. Ladies and gentlemen, please do stay with us, as we will actually have a very moving performance in the next few minutes. I'll introduce it briefly as we get the stage prepared. Ladies and gentlemen, unfortunately, the past decade has really created some very difficult and even traumatic memories in our global conscience. And in February 2022, we'll all remember when Russia invaded Ukraine. It was an act which began the massive displacement of millions of Ukrainians, and some of those displaced children are actually with us today. They are among the 1,500 children of war brought to safety in Turkey under the leadership of Her Excellency Emine Erdoğan and the wife of the Ukrainian President Olena Zelenska. They are here today to perform a traditional Crimean Tatar and Ukrainian dance for all of us to enjoy.
yaşamadım yaşlılığıma, doyamadım vetanıma, hasret oldum ey güzel hırım. Ben bu yerde yaşamadım yaşlılığıma, doyamadım vetanıma, hasret oldum ey güzel hırım. Balaçağa vatanımdım, göz yaşımı döker. Hartlarımı serileceğim, dualar eder. Ben bu yerde yaşamadım yaşlılığıma, doyamadım vetanıma, hasret oldum ey güzel hırım. Ben bu yerde yaşamadım yaşlılığıma, doyamadım vetanıma, hasret oldum ey güzel hırım.
Thank you so much. I am not sure if this is the end or if we're introducing something else, actually. I was told, okay.
Herhalde bir fotoğraf çekilecek ha.
Tamam. Oh, actually, no. Please do stay on the stage. Please do stay on the stage. We're going to take a group photo with the First Lady, so we ask you to stay on the stage. Thank you so much.
Bütün First Lady'leri çağırsın benim yanıma diyor.
Can we also have our other distinguished speakers come to the stage for a group photo with the children of Crimea and Ukraine? Thank you so much, everybody. It's amazing the emotion that voices and music can evoke, such talent, and really, it shows that even when we're far from home, we never have to lose touch with our culture and language. So ladies and gentlemen, as soon as the group photos are finished, we will exit the auditorium here. And for those participating in today's presentations, as well as the ministers and presidents and first ladies, I'd like to invite you all to the exhibition across the hallway, Bulletproof Dreams. We'll have a presentation there. So if all of our distinguished speakers, ministers in attendance, please do join us across the hall for a special presentation of Bulletproof Dreams.